Corkscrew Sanctuary's dry down begins sometime around March and April, depending on the rainfall we've had that year. The two main areas we have of water are the North and the South Lake. Up north they have spring, summer, fall, and winter. Here in South Florida we have the wet season and the dry season. Normally the lakes are probably 3 to 4 feet deep, possibly deeper in some spots. As the swamp dries up, all the fish in the surrounding area wind up at the lakes. We have an abundance of fish in the swamp, and of course when the water table starts going down, all the fish wind up at the lake, and that becomes a place of intense feeding. While we don't get a complete dry down every year, we certainly get close to it every year. It depends on when our summer's rains start. We have an abundance of hawks and other predators in the area watching the dry down take place. The barred owls, these are the young barred owls, they'll sit up in the branch and they'll feed off of the crayfish that are on the edge of the water. Of course the gators are always in the water, they're feeding on anything that gets close to them. The next set of images are at the South Lake. You'll see the action going on, and if you look closely, in the center of that is a fairly large alligator. You'll notice that everybody keeps their distance from him as well. Most of the birds do fairly well around alligators. When they get fighting over territory is when they get foolish and they wind up landing right beside an alligator, and of course at that moment the alligator will take one. Wood storks feed very well in this type of atmosphere. The water's only a few inches deep, and that's where they like it. They move their bills back and forth, and they pull out quite a few fish. They often get very close to the alligators, but they seem to know just how far away to stay. Not all of these images are from this year's dry down. The spoonies were here, I think it was 2 years ago. The owls sit next to the water's edge, and when they see a crayfish, they fly down and take them. The alligators are somewhat territorial, and they'll quickly run off anybody coming into their area that doesn't belong there. The raccoons feed along the bank, and they pick up crayfish and stuff, and the alligators try to pick them off. A large number of alligators will move deeper into the swamp as things dry up. Several will stay, they'll claim territory of the lakes, and they'll stick around and they'll try to take out anything that's left, even though they're pretty much feeding out of just a mud hole. This is the North Lake, and it's not much more than a mud puddle. This alligator, if you look, he's moving his right arm and he's pawing at the mud, and he's kicking up fish. When the fish start to move, he tips his head suddenly to the right or left, and he takes a big mouthful of mud, and in that mud many times are fish. He'll sit there with the mud in his mouth and he'll chew on the water. What he's doing, he doesn't open his mouth far enough to let the fish out, but he does chew enough to let the mud and the trash out of his mouth, and when he finally has it out of his mouth, he'll swallow the fish. To protect the alligator from choking or getting water into his lungs, he has a flap at the base of his tongue that closes his throat, so it allows him to grab things underwater, or as in this case, tip his head up with a mouthful of mud and not choke on it. Here he's caught himself a brown hoplo catfish. You can see that it's all mud encrusted in his mouth. There's a close-up of it. The alligator has protection for his eyes. His eyes have a coating that go over, much like a skin diver's goggle, that covers his eye when he's attacking. There you can see it's halfway closed, and there it's fully closed. Right there he's done attacking and his eyes are open. You can see the darkness of them. And in the following picture you can see the flap in the back of his throat. Now I'll zoom in and you can see a little bit better. See the flap way back in the base of his mouth? These guys will eat anything. Watch this baby take off. These gators will put on several pounds during the dry down. When they're done, they'll simply hunker down and wait till it starts to rain, and the cycle will begin all over again. Because we don't get dry downs every year, to be on the safe side, it would pay you to call the sanctuary and talk to someone there about the conditions in the swamp before you make a trip. I hope this video has helped, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.